All right. So good afternoon, officially good afternoon. It's 12 noon. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our, what is this? February winter semester uh, alumni career panel call. Welcome, everyone. We are recording this call just so that everyone knows if students did not have a chance to attend today, you will have an opportunity to review the call and hear some really good nuggets from our guests, speakers, as it relates to career development and their career journey. So I'd like to kind of kick it off with introductions. First of all, those of you that don't know me, I think a lot of you probably do, at least you get my emails. My name is Dion Minner. I'm the Career Development Manager here at the School of Management. So if you are attending today's call in person and live, you will get 5 career development points for attending today. If you review the recording, then let me know. You will get career development points for that. You will get 2.5, but there's some additional information that you'll need to send me. So just reach out to me for that information. So we're going to go ahead and kick off our call with our guest speakers. We have Joshua Finney, we have Madalyn, and we have Erick. So I'd just like to open it up to our guests to introduce yourself, kind of tell us a little bit about your background, um, your U of M journey, and yeah. And so we can kind of get a feel for who you are, where you're at, and your journey with U of M-Flint. So whoever wants to go first, I'll leave it up to you.
I'll kick it off.
All right. Thank you, Joshua.
My name is Josh Finney. Graduated from UM-Flint in 2013 with an undergraduate degree in finance and international business, and then came back in 2017 to do my MBA. Or I should say, I came back in 2015 for the MBA, graduated in 2017.
Okay.
Um, so I left, let's see, 2013. So 2012, I started at Blue Cross Blue Shield in program management. So I think it's important for everybody to know that what you graduate with isn't exactly what you're going to be doing when you first start going out, into the real world. So um, I started an internship in 2012 with Blue Cross Blue Shield, went into basically process improvement and program management. So did that for 3 years, then left there and went to um, took a contract role for a year with Ford and then became direct with Ford a year after that. And then so now we're what, 5.5 years into my career. I then left there and went to my dream job. I was actually sitting in a class and applied to this job doing my MBA.
Okay.
Um, and it's actually there's a number of alumni that are at Pratt and Miller Engineering. And I was a motorsports program manager for Corvette Racing, Chevy IndyCar, Chevy NASCAR, did a bunch of defense work for them for 5 years before landing at General Motors. And I've been at GM for 3 years and actually making a change with GM here in 4 days or 3 days. Month is short. So I'll be switching to GM Defense down in North Carolina, um, helping to protect the government. So,
All right.
yep,
Wow. What a journey. I love that you said that, what you go to school for, what you're studying may not be where you end up, right? At any point of your career. And it doesn't mean that you can't come back to that, but thank you for sharing your journey.
it's
Erick, what about
all
you?
stepping
Oh, go ahead.
stones.
Yes,
And I was just gonna say
absolutely.
everything is a stepping stone, right? It's a marathon, not a race. You're not always
Yes,
gonna get that dream job right off the bat, and sometimes you leave your dream job for other opportunities. So, I
yes.
mean, my favorite job was Pratt and Miller Engineering. Loved the job. Was at the racetrack every 2 weeks, winning races, and at some point you have to make the decision to leave and do other things. So,
All right. Well, thank you for
thank you.
sharing that. Erick, what about you?
Oh, so where do I start? Professionally, in the IT realm, I worked at Mott College for a short period of time, and then I was at Hewlett Packard on the General Motors account, in the service desk. And then I moved to a company that's now, well, it's sold. I don't even know if it's under the same name anymore. Support.com, which was a very interesting situation. Uh, Totally 100% work from home. The whole model was work from home. This was prior to COVID, uh, years prior to COVID. And that introduced me to um, just the whole work from home model, which uh, I grew to love and grew there. And it was while I was at support.com that I began going to, I was about to say my U of M-Flint, the
Okay.
MBA program. I
Okay.
guess educationally prior to that, I got my bachelor's at Eastern Michigan and started at U of M-Flint the same time and ended the same time that Josh did.
Okay.
I didn't realize Josh ended in 2017, so we started and ended at the same time. I knew your face and name were familiar. Um, and so I stayed at support.com for some years, and now I'm at Stefanini.
Mhm.
Uh, Doing, oh boy, I got a few different hats now. Global projects on the Dow Chemical account, global projects, field service delivery manager for Canada, um, and wherever else I'm needed, like a Swiss Army knife. So
Okay.
yeah, that's the quick overview of my
Awesome.
background.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And Megan, what about you?
Me, Madalyn.
Madalyn, I'm
I
sorry.
started,
I
you're
said
good.
ma'am.
I started at Mont Community College just doing general business studies, not really sure what I wanted to go into at all.
Okay.
Um, Kind of fell in love with HR work. Maybe didn't understand it fully at Mott, but then moved to U of M-Flint for my bachelor's.
Hmm.
It was kind of a struggle to pick what school to go to for sure for me. But ultimately, U of M's prestige, you could go to a different state and they know the University of Michigan.
Hmm.
Um, got my bachelor's in organizational behavior and human resource in 2020. So ended my career shut down at U of M and then started my corporate career in a weird job market. So I started in accounting, not HR, but doing
Okay.
payroll, which led into in the same company I moved into HR, got some groundwork knowledge, and then now I'm with Magna Electronics.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. 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 Thank you all for sharing your career journey and your time at U of M Flint as well. HR-ish is a little bit of my background, staffing, so I can resonate with you on the payroll piece, being a
Yep.
part of that, and kind of that foundation is kind of a little bit a part of HR and
Accounting. Yeah.
accounting, finance, payroll, that piece. So again, just to speak to what you've gone to school for, what you're studying,
Mm-hmm.
may not directly land you in a role that has that title of your degree, right? It may be a different department and things like that. And I'm sure we'll learn a lot about that from our panelists today. I know a lot of you already talked a little bit about your career journey, but I want to dig a little bit deeper. So, Madalyn, how long have you been in your industry or field, and what changes have you observed since you
Okay.
started? Tell us a little bit about that.
Um, I've been in this industry, automotive manufacturing, for 2 years now.
Okay.
And I'd say it changes month to month in automotive. It's really, you have to be able to pivot quickly. It's really reactionary to supply and demand on automobiles, really, and the parts that go along with them. Before that, I worked still in HR, but in inventory, which was a little bit more secure. There were only two major competitors, um, but the work's the same, I'd say, just the scale is bigger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So pivoting, supply
Okay.
and demand, right? Those
Yeah.
things definitely impact your day to day.
Oh, for
Absolutely.
sure.
Joshua, what about you? Tell us a little bit about how long you've been in your industry. I know you've moved a little bit throughout your career, but tell us a little bit about your industry, how long you've been in your industry or field, and what changes have you observed since you've started?
Yeah, so funny enough, so even at Blue Cross Blue Shield, still supporting automotive. Obviously, being in Michigan, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of what I mean, even Madalyn supporting like whatever she's doing at it's Magna, right, Madalyn? Like whatever she's doing at Magna, most likely is supporting maybe
Yeah.
supporting General
Functions.
Motors or Ford or Chrysler or any of us. Erick, same way. Like Erick was supporting GM, and now he's doing Dow Chemical and stuff. But like almost every industry in Michigan supports automotive.
Mm-hmm.
So starting out at Blue Cross, it was supporting all of the automakers for their insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in program management then. And I think one of the big key things that Erick said was going from like working in an office to working from home and loving that, getting very comfortable working from home, and then back to the office. So big changes in automotive. Um, everything that you see isn't what everything that you hear, I guess, isn't exactly what it is. When I first started at Ford, they said by 2025, nobody that's graduating is going to want a car. Nobody's going to want to drive. Everyone's going to want to drive autonomous.
Mm-hmm.
And now we are 2026 and we still don't have autonomous vehicles cruise. We do, but like not
Right.
to like if you sat in 2025, if you sat, or sorry, in 2017, 2015, if you sat in a like panel just like this, they would be telling you by 2025, everyone that's graduating is not going to want a car, is not going to be driving themselves. We're all going to be in shuttles that pick you up at like I commuted from Birmingham, Michigan to U of M-Flint. Like, shuttle's going to show up at my front doorstep and drive me to U of M-Flint, which sounds great, but like
Right.
not going to happen. So, like, you just like everything that you hear isn't exact like there's always an ulterior motive to what somebody is or like what the industry is telling you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really the biggest in automotive. I can go into motorsports and defense if you want me to. That's a different subset.
Mm-hmm.
But like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
automotive in general, um, yeah, what you hear is not necessarily what the end goal is,
Okay.
you know.
And it
Constantly
speaks
gonna
to those
pivot
changes.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Like I just remember sitting in the meetings and just like there's no way that everyone's not gonna own a car in 2025 and here we are and we all are still
Maybe
driving
another seven
ourselves.
years. Who knows?
I mean, you have the Teslas and like the cars can do a lot. Like I worked on the Escalade IQ for General Motors and like it can drive itself on the freeway no problem. Like I can drive from here to Traverse City and I have to touch the steering wheel maybe twice. But like when you get off the freeway, there are a lot of edge cases as to how not to injure people or
Okay.
worse, right? So,
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Eric, same question. How long have you been in your industry? I know you kind of walked us through support.com and
Um,
where you are now, but what changes have you observed since
so
you started?
in IT, so maybe 18 years now. I would say the two biggest things that I've noticed is in respect to consumer uh, computing. I wouldn't say the total elimination of viruses, but it's really, really, really curtailed because of the improvement in operating systems, improvement in antivirus software, and the cyber criminal. At
Mm,
one point, they just wanted to have fun and mess with people.
Mm-hmm.
Now they've evolved and they have more of a profit motive. And so
Mm-hmm.
they're not spending so much time developing uh, malware to mess with people. And
Mm-hmm.
so their focus is now more profit driven. And so, they're focusing on um, enterprises. That, and I don't know if this part is cyclical just because we're in the midst of a downturn, which, business cycles. Um, but the push to
Mm-hmm.
do more with less. So where I may have had a couple hours a day in the past to kind of explore whatever it was I wanted to think about,
Mm-hmm.
maybe now that's 30 minutes,
Okay.
right? And the push for managers to be much more data driven,
Mm-hmm.
to understand how to use the LLMs, the chat GPTs, you know, so to me that's been the biggest difference that I've seen.
Okay. Okay. And I'm just going to mention something that you just said, and that's being more data driven from a manager standpoint. But I think that is such an important nugget for everyone. Students that are undergrad or recently graduated that you may be on the call or looking at this call or about to graduate or go into an internship. Understanding data and the story behind that is so important. And I would think that the panelists would agree to that as well. Understanding what's happened and the current situation and the story behind that, right? And even from a future standpoint, what are those ideas, that 30 minutes that you now have, Erick, to kind of think about, right? That story and what we want to do next or what we need to do next to fill gaps and things like that. I agree. I've seen that as well in my career. That's the more with less, and we just need to be a little bit more, I guess, intentional, right?
Yep, yep,
About understanding that data, understanding our business and what our business goals are and things like that, and how we are a part of that. So thank you all for that. Um, just looking back I want to ask this question too in terms of your career journey. Looking back, and Erick, I'll start with you since you were the last one. Is there anything that you would do different in your career journey?
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. Early on, and I would also say in my educational journey as well, I wanted to move too fast. And so I made decisions based on expediency as opposed to, I would have done the hard. I would have chosen the hard as opposed to trying to get there fast, right?
Mhm.
Um, so that I would say that's the biggest thing that I've learned. I had an affinity for programming, but it would have taken longer, so I went with network engineering. And I'm kind of back dealing with like on the data science and writing code. Even for what I do now, I write code as a part of what I do now. So I
Mhm.
would have chosen the hard earlier.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And in the longer road versus the
Yep.
sprint, you would have chosen the marathon as opposed to the
As a
sprint.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay. All right. All right. Madalyn, what about you?
So
Anything
I
that you would have done
think,
different?
yeah, I think the reverse because I got the cautionary tale of don't do it quickly, take the marathon.
Hmm.
Um, so I think, and this comes with experience, just knowing when the life cycle of a job has ended, not staying someplace that doesn't serve you. Your core values don't align with the business core values anymore, and just understanding, okay, it's time to move on.
And that can be hard for some people.
Yeah.
That can be hard. People get comfortable,
Mhm.
right? And feel like, I can do this with my eyes closed and maybe not feeling challenged, but
Right.
there are other things that might come up like this is not easy, but I'm kind of going with the
Second
flow.
nature. Yeah.
Yeah, second
And
nature
that's
going with
kind
the
of
flow.
in my last job where I was at. I got to the point where, okay, it's Wednesday. I'm done with all my tasks. I'm asking what else can I do? and I'm bored. And that's a different kind of burnout in itself of
Hmm.
not having challenging work.
That is such a great nugget. Knowing when you're not challenged and you kind of going with the flow,
Hmm.
that could possibly impact a person in a different way where, right, you're completing your task, you're doing a great job. It's not a performance issue, but and you're asking for more, it's like,
Okay, but
okay,
what's next?
what's next, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's a great time to, if you are feeling that way or you happen to feel that way in your career, take a step back and kind of reassess what is it that I want to learn more of? Are there
Hmm.
projects, right? Or is it time?
Time.
Is it
Yeah,
time to look for something different, be it within your current organization or externally? So I think that that's
exactly.
a really good point to kind of take a step back and reflect.
Hmm.
Joshua, what about you? How, looking back, is there anything that you would have done differently? Because you've gone on some different roads, throughout your career, Blue
Yeah.
Cross, motorsports, GM, anything that you would have done differently?
So, kind of like Eric said, there's the education portion and there's the actual working career, adulting
Hmm.
portion of life. Um, I sped through high school and college. So
Okay.
I was at U of M-Flint I graduated high school in 2010, graduated U of M-Flint in 2013. So like very fast.
Hmm.
And in there, I studied abroad. I would say studying abroad was the best thing that I did while I was in college, just because it gives you appreciation for so many things that you can't really quantify.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, I would say a lot of us, like you don't have, so a lot of us don't have the opportunity to take the risk. And when you are in college, you have the opportunity to take some risk.
Hmm.
Because once you're in the adult life, it's much more difficult.
Hmm.
I remember Yenner, who's now the dean, I think.
Yes.
He approached me about an internship in Germany, I want to say. Um, and I got accepted and everything. And at the same time, I had gotten accepted to Blue Cross Blue Shield. And that was a risk that probably would have been worth taking to
Hmm.
go to Germany for 4 months or however long it was going to be and go do the internship abroad. It would have it would have been like looking back, that could have been such a jumping point to be able to like change who I am today or what I'm even doing today. So, um, that, like I agree with Eric. Sometimes taking the hard road is the way to go. And when I say that,
Hmm.
it's like taking those risks, those calculated risks to be able to change
Hmm.
it. I also
Hmm.
agree with Madalyn where it's like, like I was at Blue Cross, I was training somebody when I was at Blue Cross. I was an intern. They hired somebody else for $15,000 more than me. And then I was training them. And I was like, runway ended, time to take off. Then you go to the next job and like um to be transparent, like I started at Blue Cross and by the time I took my first contract role at Ford, I had doubled my salary just by taking the risk of
Hmm.
saying this runway has run out. It is time to go. I doubled my
Hmm.
salary in doing that. And so like
Hmm.
it's like you'll hear a lot of people say like, "Oh, well, don't do it for the money, etc." Don't do a job just for the money because you will be miserable, but you're not also working for charity either. Like you're not volunteering. You are
Right.
working, and you need to be paid what you're worth.
Hmm.
Don't get greedy. Bird in hand is always better than bird in bush. But like when the time comes, like I always say, I'm always available. I'm always available for another job if somebody comes to me with the right opportunity. And when that opportunity came to go work in racing, I was gone. I had a very posh job at Ford, working from home, sitting at my desk. There was a little bit of burnout because I was bored. I was working like 20 hours a week, getting paid for 40. It was great. But
Yeah.
that challenge of like what Eric was saying, like that challenge of going and doing something difficult, something different. I was
Mhm.
a finance major, and to go and work in an engineer's world, totally out of my wheelhouse. Did I go do it? Sure did. And was
Yeah.
it the most fun I've had in all of my jobs? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, um, I guess the long story short, and then I went to GM, and that it's been a journey by itself. But um, long story short is like I think to echo what Madalyn said, like when the runway is up, it's time to
Mhm.
go.
Mhm.
And to echo what Eric was saying is just like sometimes that, doing the hard or doing the risk is really what you need to do to be able to push yourself. And that's what I'm doing in 4 days. Like I'm relocating from Michigan to North Carolina,
Mhm.
leaving
Yeah.
behind a girlfriend and dogs and family and all this stuff. And I'm doing the hard. I'm taking the risk and hopefully it pays out. But like, um, it's all to get defense on my resume, to get defense because as we started the conversation out was saying like we are automotive centric in Michigan,
Yes.
and having something other than automotive on your resume is key when it pivots because it will pivot, and you got
Absolutely.
to be ready for that pivot.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Being burnout can happen from boredom,
Mhm.
right? All of you have said that. And it's something to keep in mind that I don't think people typically think about. When we think about burnout, we think about being overworked. Oh my God, I don't have enough. We're doing more with less. We're being asked to do more. I don't have any help, right? But the opposite can happen as well, where you're like, I'm not feeling challenged and I'm actually kind of bored here, right? There's nothing additional for me to learn or to do or what have you. Burnout can happen then as well. So thank you all for sharing that because I don't think that we in general typically think of burnout being in that category as well. So let's talk a little bit about skills and preparation. All right. So, what skills or knowledge from your program or from your job have been the most valuable in your career? So, Madalyn, what about you? Skills or knowledge that have been the most valuable in your career?
Took a negotiation class that at the time felt really repetitive. But in practice, I think I use negotiation tactics every day.
Okay.
Communication skills are a must have, the soft skills, uh,
Mm,
understanding the employee life cycle and how it impacts people in their day-to-day job every day. A lot of the classes that Gerald Kinesic taught,
mhm.
really relevant. I don't think he's there anymore though. Um, yeah, say
Okay.
those.
Do you mind sharing just a little bit more about, from an HR perspective, how you use negotiation?
All right. If an employee comes to me with maybe not an issue, but a challenge that they
Mhm.
have, um, challenging them to think of a different perspective, which usually they don't want to do, right? This is my issue.
Mhm.
I want you to solve my issue.
Mhm.
Okay. But if you thought about it from this angle, we could implement this change to solve that issue, right?
Mhm.
So that collaboration, kind of working together to find out the best compromise solution.
Mhm. Mhm. And just from an HR perspective, because again, I get you.
Yeah.
Employees come to you and say, I have this issue and this is how I want it fixed. This is a
Right.
solution that
Yep.
I think is going to be best, right? So great
Mhm.
example on the negotiation piece because it is negotiating.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your idea, but let's look at it from this perspective as well. We might take a different road, but we're going to get to
That
somewhat the
maybe that
same
same
solution,
answer. Yeah.
right? The same answer, but we got to take a little
Hmm.
bit of a different path. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Awesome. Eric, what about you? What skills or knowledge from your program have been the most valuable in
From
your
my
career?
program. First about the program, I want to say, I went to Mott, got my
Mhm.
undergrad from Eastern Michigan, got my MBA from U of M-Flint, got a master's in data science from University of Wisconsin, and I just started a doctoral degree. I have to say my time at U of M-Flint was by far the best.
Awesome.
Um, Now, uh, I would say learning to see, as far as work,
Mhm.
learning to see things from the business perspective. All of those case studies that we did, every problem that comes,
Mhm.
every situation, I instantly think about business. And that goes back to when I was still a technician. I started, well, no, when I was at U of M Flint, I wasn't supervised. I was a supervisor. But to think business
Mhm.
for every problem, right? There's a business ramification, right?
Mhm.
And um to understand second and third order consequences.
Mhm.
I forget the professor's name. It was a strategic management course, and he
Okay.
talked about second and third order consequences, and that's something that has stayed with me, and that it causes me to step back and think about, okay, this works, but
Mhm.
what happens after that? What
Mhm.
happens after that? Right?
Mhm.
And so those things, I would say those two things have,
That's awesome.
yep,
Yeah, the then what, right?
yep, yep,
What are the consequences of this?
yep.
Because at the end of the day in business, there's going to be a financial impact. There's going to be an
Absolutely.
operational impact.
Absolutely.
With everything
Absolutely.
that we do, the decision that was made that Madalyn talked about, if she would have gone the route that the employee wanted to go, if you really dig into it, there could be a financial implication.
Right.
There could be
And
a
and and you,
operational.
and then
Mhm.
you understand the motivations.
Yes.
You could have a better idea of your manager's manager's manager, understand their motivations and their
Mhm.
pressures,
Mhm.
and things like that. So
That's a
I'll,
really good
yeah.
point. Very good point. Thank you. All right, Joshua, what about you?
So I would I would say there's you know, from a being a finance guy, finance is super helpful for basically everything.
Hmm.
Finance and international or finance, accounting, those classes have been able to give me a step up on basically everyone that I deal with.
Okay.
In being in an engineering space, right? Like if I was in a different space, we would be talking like if I was in a finance role, totally
Hmm.
different conversation. But like
Hmm.
having a finance degree and being not in the finance role, you see a lot of the things that Eric just said from a business perspective that most people don't see.
Hmm.
I would say from an international business perspective, yeah, there's the like the international trade and all those classes, but I think like multicultural management and those classes were also some of the most beneficial because being a people person and being able to talk to people is above everything else that you're going to learn in school. Like
Yes.
if you can go in and you can talk to somebody and you can in reality sell somebody on why you're the best, which helps you with interviews, or like what Madalyn said, negotiating, which helps you in interviews and gives you the pay that you're looking for. All
Mhm.
of like that is going to be the biggest skill that I took away from school is just like being able to sell yourself, being able to relate to people, understanding, hey, it's Ramadan right now and my boss is fasting. So like
Mhm.
the
Don't
things that
bring
I'm going to
fast
bring to
food
the
in.
table
Yeah,
today are going to be a lot different than the things that I'm going to bring to the table in the
absolutely.
middle of March. It's
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
understanding your social awareness and understanding all those little idiosyncrasies is going to help you to be able to deliver your message and get your point across like bar none.
Yes. Yes. That is so important. Being able to talk to people, engaging with people face to face over Zoom, but having that conversation, the communication skills are so critical. But just you took it like a couple of layers beyond that with just understanding that social piece, right? Understanding you mentioned it's Ramadan season. So it's all right, what does that mean? And timing wise, maybe I'll have the conversation later, that I need to have with my boss or boss's boss or what have you. So thank you for those little nuggets, because communication and engagement, like you said, helps with interviews, helps with when you're engaging with other people within your organization. There's so many different layers to that. So thank you for sharing that. My other question, as it relates to skills and preparation, I want to kind of stay in this topic a little bit. Are there any universal skills that you believe apply across organizations or professions, should I say? Any universal skills? I know we talked about communication being, I think you all will agree, being one. Are there other skills that you think that are universal that can be used and applied across professions? Joshua, since you were the last, we'll start with you.
Okay. I would say critical thinking, which
Okay.
I know is a underlying skill that you learn in college, right? That's
Mhm.
basically why you're here, is to be a critical thinker, right? A lot of the classes that you take aren't, you're good. Psychology being one of them. I remember psychology being the one course that I was like, why am I taking this class? But it is literally to get you to critical think. Um, so I think critical thinking is something that it can go across, and I think it really comes out now with the AI push in the world. A lot of people say like, oh, AI is going to take my job. But like Erick said, you only have 30 minutes to make a decision now. So you better figure out how to use AI to help you as your
Mhm.
sidekick be able to
Mhm.
like make the decision. AI, and like I'm not a huge AI person. I'm just gonna say that right now. Um, but I have used AI right now in my job to create a pivot table. Just simple things that like you have to go in your mind and like think about how to do that you don't use every day. You can
Mhm.
use AI to do those things. Adjust your resume. Do not write your entire resume using AI. We
Thank
can
you for
tell.
saying that.
We can tell. Don't
Yeah.
do not send an
Absolutely.
email. I get so irritated when somebody sends me an email that is all AI written. I literally will respond and say, "Please use your own words. Reply." And then
Mhm.
they're like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "You used AI for this entire thing. Please tell me how you
Mhm.
actually feel." But I use AI a lot to say, take job description A and here's my resume, and please tailor my resume to job description. That's the only way you're getting through the filters these days. Like, and I sat in the HR class, and Madalyn, you may tell me I'm nuts, but like, I sat in the HR class, and they literally said, like, we use AI to screen almost all of our resumes. It gives us a score, and then from the score, it says, like, the hiring manager can say, well, I'm only going to take the A's and B's of the resumes. And so if you don't do tailoring, you're going to get left out. What I call auto rejected. I don't like getting rejected as it is. An auto rejection is even worse. So so um critical thinking I think is key, and
Mhm.
being able to just like keep your eyes open. Don't put your blinders on. Make sure you always have a sphere. All of those case studies that you learn
Mhm.
that you're doing in class, like those, it may not be the exact thing. Like I know we did a Harvard business study on um, performance management,
Mhm.
which is exactly what we're implementing at General Motors right now, and it's terrible. Um, it's absolutely miserable, and it literally follows exactly what the case study did. But you have to like you gotta open your eyes and say like, why are we doing it? What is the ulterior motive? Oh,
Mhm.
we can't afford to actually have 25,000 employees here. We need to have 19,000. It's going to be painful to let all those people go. So let's have fun with it and do performance management. No sarcasm at all in that statement. But but yeah,
Okay. Critical thinking and
critical
just
thinking.
keeping your eyes open, like you said, just understanding not only your role, but just your goals, the goals of the department, and what's going on, and the why behind those things, right?
Yeah, and that's a, Dion, you bring up a good word that you just brought up, which is why. And at GM, we have been pushing this always ask why on
Mm-hmm.
everything. And I know for all of us that were kids at one point, we were always told because I said so, not
Yeah,
why, right? Like you
right,
ask why, and all of a sudden you get your Xbox taken away,
right.
But in corporate, you can ask why, and it is
Yes.
perceived a lot different than sometimes. It is perceived
Mhm.
a lot different than you know, than in your house. So,
Right, right. And kind of how you grew up. Yes.
yeah.
Asking why was not allowed in some
Nope.
of our households. All right, Madalyn, what about you? Are there universal skills you believe apply across professions?
Yeah, I definitely think the ability to change, like Joshua was talking about, or the openness for change is very important. Soft skills, if you're training someone new in your department and you don't really know how to have a conversation with someone new, right? That training is not going to be effective. So soft skills, the ability to change, and understanding that when someone asks the why, it's to gain a better understanding. How is this going to impact
Mm-hmm,
X, Y,
mm-hmm,
Z?
mm-hmm. You mentioned soft skills a couple of times. Is there
Mm-hmm.
anything in particular? Because that's my jam. Yeah, I love training on soft skills. Is there anything from a soft skills perspective, like that you would call out, specific soft skills that you think are important or could be universal? We talked about communication being one.
I think reaction, like not reacting out the gate, um,
Mhm.
and taking a beat to try and understand rather than,
Mhm. Kind of that emotional intelligence in a sense, like
yeah.
the other
Hmm.
person, yeah, yeah, understanding the energy that someone is reacting to you
But
on, and
even if someone comes at you with a certain energy,
yeah.
in their mind, it's probably really important, right? They need this
Mm-hmm.
answer right now,
Mm-hmm.
and they want you to give the answer that they want,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to take a second. Okay, what do they want?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go into it, and then we'll
Mm-hmm.
start evolving the conversation.
Mm-hmm. And understanding that their tone is not directed really, they're not mad
No,
at you.
they have
And
something
you
they
mentioned
need
the
to
word
get done.
reacting,
Yeah.
reacting early, not reacting to
Hmm.
that, right? And taking that personally, but understanding that they're coming here because they're feeling anxious about whatever it is. And to
Hmm.
your point, kind of taking a step back and going, okay, let me hear what they're saying and
Exactly.
what they're
What is it?
asking for, and not
Yep.
in the tone that they're asking or
Yeah.
demanding, if it could come
Yeah.
across that way, right?
Exactly.
All right. All right. That's good stuff. Good stuff. All right, Eric, what about you? Are there universal skills you believe apply across any profession?
Absolutely, absolutely, and very foundational kind of things. Paying attention,
Mm,
just paying attention, listening.
hmm
Somebody said asking questions, not making assumptions. Come and ask questions. Hard work, being dependable,
hmm
having integrity.
hmm
You could be a relatively poor performer, but if you have all of those things, you probably won't get fired ever. I mean, yes, if there's a down, they downsize,
hmm
but
hmm
if you have those things, you'll probably make it through. You'll probably be able to make it through the hard times, and eventually you'll learn and become a good performer. But
hmm
missing some of those things, you could be a decent performer and still be moved on.
hmm
Um, I've had a lot of teams, a lot of people over the years, and those are the qualities that I've always made sure I kept on my teams. Where
hmm
people that I can depend on, people that if they say yes, they're going to do it. I know they're going to do it. I don't have to stay up at night wondering.
hmm
If they say something, I can believe them. right? I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to have to sit back and wonder if they're lying to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I would say those are the universal.
Thank you. I would like to add being able to accept constructive criticism and
Absolutely.
feedback.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Really taking feedback as a gift. And I'm sure all of you have probably heard that before, but it truly is a gift when someone will share with you some of the hard things, right? Maybe you're not performing well. Maybe it's something, right, as it relates to your job and the work that you're doing, or maybe it's your communication style. But having a manager or even a close coworker to say, hey, Eric, come here a second, or Dion, come here a second. Let me kind of share with you X, Y, and Z, right? And just really being able to take that feedback and really let it sit and digest it and go, wow, okay, this is how others are seeing me, right? And what do I need to do to improve, right? So taking that piece.
So a bit of humility.
Yes, 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 absolutely, absolutely. Thank you all for
De
sharing that.
Deanna, could I add one thing to that?
Absolutely. Please do.
So I think one thing that you touched on is like getting the feedback. I think one of the things that I totally agree with is like being dependable, and that goes for both if you're an employee or if you have a friend at work who is also also dependable. Um, those alliances, and alliance is a strong word, but like those alliances will carry you a long way through your
Mhm.
career. Whether
Good
it
job.
is, yeah,
Mhm.
like all of the connections that I made at Pratt and Miller are now Pratt and Miller has a huge base in North Carolina where I'm moving to. I'm now able to contact all those people and say, "Hey, where's the best place to move?" Because I have zero idea and I'm supposed to be there March 1st. So like, where am I going to live? What am I going to do? And like those types of alliances, now that I'm going to be in North Carolina, could then end up pulling me back into motorsports because they all work for GM in motorsports there. So like having those dependable friends, don't burn your friends at work. Like that's
Mhm.
a key. Do not burn
Mhm.
your friends at work. If somebody asks you a question, you feel like you can tell them in confidence, just be honest with them or say, "Hey, I really can't talk about this." Don't lie to them because if you lie to them, it is so hard to make that relationship back up at work, and things spread like if you think rumors are bad in high school, good wait till you get into career. Like it is terrible.
Yes.
So like just like respect those relationships and know that each of those relationships with your boss, like
Mhm.
what Madalyn said, like don't like a lot of times the emotion is warranted what somebody is bringing. Don't take it personally
Mhm.
because they don't mean any harm most of the time.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
it's just some people are in a lot more pressure than the rest of us. So,
Yes. Yes. And I just like to piggyback on something that you said when you talked about alliances. I think about the relationships, right, that I formed with employers, with my customers externally, right? And into the role that I'm in here with University of Michigan-Flint. I've been able to call on them and say, hey, this is where I'm at now. Do you have any internships, right? Because I'm really looking at that as an opportunity for our students. And I've gotten some because of those relationships that I have, or introductions to other people that could also be of benefit, right? So it definitely goes beyond, your current role, the employer that you're with. But Joshua hit it on the head. Those alliances that you build at work, you're about to move. You're not even with that company yet, but just being able to call them, link in, hey, I'm going to be in North Carolina. Can I talk to you? I mean, those go such a long way, such a long
or
way.
or even as simple as Anna reaching out on LinkedIn saying, "Hey, is there some can anyone
Yes,
talk?" Right? And I haven't seen Anna in 10 years, maybe, something like
yes,
that. And like, or I haven't seen Eric and it's probably about the same. And Eric's like, "Hey, you look familiar." And I'm like, "Yeah, as soon as you came on the screen, I was like, I know you." So, um, you know, total, totally, 100%
Yes,
what you're saying. And especially if you're in an MBA program at U of M, all of those connections that you have can
yes,
really help you out
yes.
a
MBA
long, long way.
program, undergraduates, when we host or have networking events, if you're able to come, that is such a great opportunity to connect with not only other students that attend, but the employers or the guests that we have. If you can't make it to a networking event that we're having here at U of M-Flint, look at other networking events that are in your area, right? If you're in the Detroit area, if you're out of state, really take advantage of those opportunities because making those connections are so important and can take you, farther than you ever imagine and definitely utilizing them. Thank you all for sharing your ideas and thoughts about skills and preparation. Industry and professional life. Um, some of you talked a little bit about AI. Want to tell me a little bit about, has technology in general changed your role and what changes do you anticipate in the future? So, Madalyn,
Still thinking.
what has technology changed your role any? And what changes do you anticipate in the future?
So for sure, one of the first projects I was on in this role was a payroll database change, that kind of integrates AI into it
Hmm.
in a way that's useful is
Mm-hmm.
to be seen still, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but it's a work in progress, like everything is. At
Mm-hmm.
my last role, I had the luxury of all of our HRIS systems being homegrown. So any changes we wanted to make, we just made. Here, it's a little bit different. There's an approval process. There's, what are we affecting with this?
Mm-hmm.
Um, our HRIS system and our payroll system being separated, um, I think is an opportunity because a lot of systems have the ability to do both. So why are we using two systems that
Mm-hmm.
communicate mostly with each other when one or the other has the ability to do both?
Mm-hmm.
Looking at stuff like that, and then of course in automotive, it's automation alley all day long. What can we automate? Uh,
Yes.
we have AMR robots here that move parts around for us, and they're fully automated. There's no person running that. There's a person servicing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the different roles in automotive on the manufacturing side, plant floor side, the more we can automate, the more we want to.
Yeah. 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 And so when you think about technology, yeah, I've
Ever
seen it
changing.
firsthand, just, when you incorporate robots and things like that into a production facility, it definitely impacts your labor, right?
Yeah.
And the amount of people that you have at that facility. But there's always that technician.
hmm
You have to have a live person to really
Service the,
troubleshoot
the
and
yeah,
repair
absolutely.
or maintenance,
hmm
that technology as well. And then just mentioning, HRIS systems and payroll systems, I think about my previous employer and the applicant tracking and things like that were
hmm
homegrown
Yeah.
until we got something off the shelf that was customized a bit for that organization. But there was still the payroll side that was on its
hmm
own, right?
hmm
So, I mean, there's reasons, right, that organizations kind of maybe keep things separately, maybe have it work
hmm
together a little bit, and maybe they don't want to put all their eggs in one basket with
Right.
one
Right.
system that could have some impact and consequence if something goes down, right?
Right.
Definitely want to make sure people get paid. That's the one thing
Of
I know you don't want
course.
people coming to your door on Friday
hmm No.
asking about their paycheck.
No.
Been there, done that. So, so thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. Joshua, what about you? Has technology changed your role and what changes do you anticipate in the future?
Technology has definitely changed a lot of things in my role. I'm in similar space as Madalyn, or let me rephrase. I was in a similar space as Madalyn, in manufacturing. So, AMRs, that's a huge push right now. Um, a lot of robots, cobots, little robots, that do little tasks. And then you have
Mhm.
the big robots that literally like pick up a car and flip it around and all this stuff. Um, a lot of the things that Madalyn said, not only are they cheaper, but they are also a lot safer for a lot of the people in the plant, in the
Mm-hmm.
manufacturing facility. So a lot of things from technology that I see, yes, there's a huge push. And when I say keep your eyes open, this is one of them. Like there's a huge push to bring AMRs in to make things safer, to make things more efficient. It is going to get rid of jobs. There are going to be less of those jobs. Will those people have other jobs that they'll be able to do? Yes, most likely, someplace. Because not all companies are going to be able to afford an AMR. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
not cheap. Magna can afford it. All the autos can afford it because we're making billions and billions of dollars a year. But like your mom and pop shop isn't going to have an AMR or a big robot to be able to do a lot of the things that you want to be able to do, or that we're able to do. So from that perspective, technology has definitely changed things. AI, like I talked about at the beginning, has changed things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like there's a lot, I consider it a lot of drama that AI is going to take a lot of our jobs. Like I feel like that's a lot of there's a lot of talk about AI, and like the AMR stuff could be driven by AI and it will take jobs for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In a finance world, AI probably is going to have a little bit of an impact at some point, but it's probably not to the extent of like what like the conspiracy conversation is.
Mm-hmm.
It's somewhere in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I just say like use AI to help you be more efficient so that you can do a lot of the things like what Erick said. Like you could be a subpar employee, and if you are efficient and you're dependable and you're on time, and AI helps you do that, you will stay employed for a much longer period of time than you might think. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, I mean, that's really the two
Okay.
things. Technology is not always bad. Hopefully it keeps you from getting your foot crushed or getting run over by a forklift, both
Mm-hmm.
of which are very painful. And then to like use AI to be more efficient and to help do a lot of things, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Be careful
Okay.
what you put into AI. Personal data, don't do that, but like
Yeah.
you get the
Okay.
gist.
Yes, thank you. All right, Erick.
Um, AI hasn't fundamentally changed, like officially changed my role, but I use it, you know, differently. And so I'm able to do a lot more, a lot more. And what do I think about how for the future? I think technology, AI specifically, allows non-technical people to access and do technical things, right? You don't even have to know how to do technical speak. To type in an LLM, you could type however you can think about it in your mind. You can use broken English. Type it in an LLM, what you want done, and it will do the technical thing that you want done. It, I'm not saying, it'll build a rocket ship to the moon, but you can do things that you probably couldn't do technically 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I could go on and on and on for days on this issue and the things that how I've used AI and technology to get things
Mm-hmm.
done that I would have taken me a longer time to do.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I know we have just a few minutes left, and just to be conscious of everyone's time, is there anyone that's on the call that has a question for any of our panelists? Just kind of like to open it up. Or has anyone put anything in the chat? You know?
No, nothing in the chat yet.
Nothing yet. Okay. All right. If you do have a question for one of the panelists, I mean, certainly you have their names. If you want to reach out to them on LinkedIn, I would highly recommend that. Say that you were attended the call, or maybe you reviewed the call after the recorded session. Definitely feel free to reach out to them on LinkedIn. Well, we appreciate everyone's participation today. Thank you so much. Everything that everyone has said has been, I could talk to y'all for a few hours. Anna knows that. But I really appreciate everyone's feedback, kind of sharing about your career journey, what's helped you from the program here, and just the nuggets that you've dropped today for our students on things that they need to think about kind of in the real world of work, right, as an adult. After you complete your degree, or even if you're currently employed in that job, right, today, and you're going to school part-time, just some things to kind of think about, right? Reflection, those soft skills, communication, right? And just as Joshua said, keeping your eyes open. Love that. Keeping your eyes open, staying aware. But thank you all for participating today. We really appreciate your time. And I want everyone to have a wonderful day. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Deanna.
Thanks,
All
guys.
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks, Anna.